Welcome back, everyone. I am Nessa.
And I'm T.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. And we are very excited today because we are here to talk about Harry Potter 20th Anniversary Reunion Special, Return to Hogwarts. Now, this story means a lot to the both of us. And we definitely will be diving deeper into the story in the future and future pods to come. But today we'll be just talking about the special. But of course, who knows where this conversation could go. But before you join us on our Hogwarts Express ride, I would like T to give us the spoiler warning.
So, as Nessa said, we are going to talk about the Harry Potter reunion special, which means that we are probably going to mention things from the actual Harry Potter movies. Those movies include, but are not limited to, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prison of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. If we're talking about the movies, that's part 1 and part 2. And if we're talking about the books, just the book itself. In addition to those, we may also, who knows, discuss something from one of the tangential books that came out of the Harry Potter world, like Fantastic Beasts or Quidditch Through the Ages or something like that. I don't see us talking about it, but you never know. We might talk about the movie franchise that sprung up out of the Harry Potter movies as kind of like a prequel, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. And we may speculate about the one that's coming out on April 15th, 2022, called Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore. We may talk about the theatrical play, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. All of those things, anything within and outside tangent to the Harry Potter universe, we may talk about. So I say that to say, if you know nothing, I don't know how you would even get this far in life without never even hearing Harry Potter. But if you have not, at least at the minimum, seen the 8 movies, you probably should stop, go back, watch every single one. You got time. Don't even act like you don't got time. Half of y'all snowed in. The other half are still in quarantine. Just go back and do it and get it done. And then come back and join us as we talk about how we feel about seeing all of these actors and actresses back together again 20 years later.
That was very passionate spoiler warning.
This is my favorite story of all time. So.
And I loved it.
I ran through it. I wasn't looking at a piece of paper. I know what I'm talking about. Okay.
I loved it. All right. So, I mean, at this point, we might as well just kind of get into it, right? Like, how are you introduced to the story and what has it meant to you throughout the years?
So I was introduced to Harry Potter. I heard about it. So Harry Potter came on my radar actually through a mutual friend that we both have, Tamar. She was reading it in one of our classes when we were in 601 together. And she's like, yeah, it's kind of cool or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if I'll read it, blah, 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 blah. So I tried picking it up because everything Tamar read at the time, I read, right? Everything from Fly Girl and everything else in between. If she had the book, she was giving it to me next, right? So I found the book somewhere, picked it up, could not get into it. Like I just could not get past the first chapter, The Boy Who Lived, right? And then fast forward a couple of months later, I was at my cousin's house and I was bored. My cousins like doing things that I didn't do, like hanging out in the hallways and I was such an introverted kid that I just wanted to be in the house where I knew it was safe. And in order to occupy my time, I started going through their books and they had Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So I picked it up. I think my cousins went to the store. They went somewhere and left me behind. It was okay on purpose. They asked me if I wanted to go. I said no. So I had hours, 2 or 3 hours where I was the only kid in the house. And I forced myself past that first chapter and I never looked back. By the time I got to chapter 6, I vividly remember this. I got to chapter 6. I think that was the chapter where he got on the train to Hogwarts. I knew I was hooked like crack. It was such an overwhelming feeling of, I need to know everything about this story. So I finished that book in that one night at my cousin's house at the time. I was 11. I think I was 11 or 12. That's the age we were in like 6th grade, right? And then I knew my aunt that lived next door to me had the second book because I had helped her like clean out her living room a couple of weeks before and saw it. I got home and knocked on my aunt's door. She wasn't answering. I was like clawing at her. I was scratching her door. Like, let me in. Let me get. So she heard the scratching and thought that there was something wrong and like came to the door like, what is going on? And I was like, you have a book that I need. She's like, what? So I got the book, read the book, and then bought the third and I think the fourth book had either just came out or was out at that time. I didn't buy it. I rented it from somewhere. And I didn't start purchasing the books until the 5th book, until Order of the Phoenix. I had that in hard copy. That is actually, and this is part of the reason why the story is so meaningful to me. That book was the last thing my mother bought me before she passed away, was the Order of the Phoenix book.
Gotcha.
Like one of the last things she purchased for me was it was either the Order of the Phoenix. I'm getting my years messed up. It was either Order of the Phoenix or Half-Blood Prince. But either way, she was in the hospital at the time, and I was just like, I need to get this book. It was July. She was like, order it. Here's my card. Like, just go do it. So that was great. So, that was my introduction to the HP franchise, and yeah.
Gotcha. Very deep rooted. I love it.
I remember it all very vividly.
So vividly remember.
I do.
Unfortunately, my memories do not work in the same kind of vivid manner. But I do remember the book circulating. And similar to you, I remember trying to read it and like not getting very far. But the movie was coming out. So 2001.
Yeah.
November 14th, the movie drops. My birthday is November 12th.
Yep.
So of course, like, you know, growing up in a strict household, it's not like I was out here like throwing parties really or doing anything like that or whatever, right? Plus we're in 6th grade, fine. So my thing was like, my birthday's coming. I want to go to the movies. Guess what movie's coming out? Because I just remember like seeing like the trailer and stuff. And I remember like people reading the books and stuff, but the trailer and the movie just looked more interesting to me. So I was like, maybe this will be cool. Maybe this will be fun. And so I went and loved it. And I loved the movie. And then of course, Chamber of Secrets comes out the same time the year after, again, around my birthday. So like, it's like, it kind of became like my little birthday thing of like, let me go see, you know, HP movies. And so for me, my main introduction was through the films and stayed with the films for a very, very long time. I did not go back to reading the books until like I was like young adult or adult. And and to be truthful, I did not actually finish reading through all of the books until just last year. So but it did not, you know, I was still just as invested and just like thoroughly deep into the story, but just more through the cinematic world. So I was watching it all the time. I was watching all the marathons and everything like that, and was just like loving it. And then of course, like as you get to be an adult and you have your own money, and now it's like, oh, I can buy stuff now. So it's like, you know, now I've got like the book set and I've got, you know, wands and memorabilia and all types of things and whatever. So it's a story that I think means a lot because it's so easy in this world. Cause like, I don't know about for you, but for me, I've never been like necessarily like the standout girl or like the one to like really put myself out there and stuff like that. So it's very easy to feel like regular, so to speak, and average. And it was great to see a story where our main character is this regular average person who gets to step into this magical world and find out that there's so much more to life. And I think that's just like a beautiful sentiment, and a lot of people can relate to that. And I love that because it's just this unassuming little boy, and he's just like, me? a wizard? Like, what? Like, what do you mean?
I
And
can't
I
be
think,
a wizard.
yeah, and for so long, I wish I was gonna get my letter to Hogwarts, or I wish a giant was going to show up at my door and be like, Vanessa, you're the one. Like,
You're a wizard,
let's
You're a wizard,
go.
Nessa.
You're a wizard. A what?
What?
um, so it's a beautiful story about life and death and friendships and adventure,
Choice.
choices. It's just, and it's so great from finish to end. And reading the books only enhanced the movies for me. It made me nitpick some of the movies a little bit more, but it didn't take my love away from the movies. Um, but it's just such a good story, man. It's such a good story.
I agree with everything that you said, so I won't repeat it. But I think specifically the point you said about it resonating because it's the ordinary stepping into the extraordinary, I think is what makes it. I mean, yes, the movie is filled with magic, and we're not going to do a recap of the story. Like, we'll save that for whenever we do a deeper dive of the Harry Potter story. But it's a story about magic, but the real magic is being able to see yourself in the main character. That is the magic of the Harry Potter phenomenon. And so this particular special that was, I believe, hosted by HBO Max is really special because 20 years after, I believe the first movie came out. Yeah, 20 years after the first movie came out, we see so many of the actors and actresses who played these characters come back together to talk about their experience making the films and how they were dealing with all that and the reaction from fans and like all these different things. So how did you feel about seeing all these people like back together again?
Oh my gosh, it was so great. Like, because I think sometimes you wonder, like, do they stay in touch? Like, are they still friends, or were they ever actually friends? You kind of think that a little bit. And so whether they are or not, but just watching them reunite with each other to talk about the film, to talk about their experiences, is like really a wonderful thing, because it feels like we've grown up with them as well. And they're all like pretty much around our age. So it's like,
yeah, I think I think Daniel Radcliffe might be our age, and Emma might be a year younger, and Rupert might be a year older. I think that's how that goes.
Yeah, so we're all like in the same age bracket, basically. So it's like, it's wild watching them, like, and then even when they're doing the flashbacks and everything, it's like, oh, they look so young and precious, and look at them now, and like just to watch them like share their experiences and everything. And then, I mean, listen, the biggest, hottest glow up to happen was Neville Longbottom, Matthew Lewis. Like, first of all, yeah, I have to say, the puberty gods rained fire on him, because they were just like, nah, we're not going to keep you looking like that forever. That boy glowed up so beautifully. And then, I mean, Dean Thomas.
Alfred Enoch has been my man since the first freaking movie. Like, since he was all tiny, like, that looks like a Remember All. I was like, yes, it does, Bill. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? Okay. Alfred Enoch. Oh my goodness.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Such a beautiful, beautiful man. Like,
yeah.
Oh, love him.
So great.
But yeah, it was definitely fun watching them reunite to talk about their experiences, for sure.
I had an emotional reaction, like I do to so many things, to this film-ish. Well, I guess whatever you want to call it, this reunion. I had an emotional reaction to seeing them back together again, to hearing their voices like talk to each other. Like, I had a very like, this feels like home to me. And that was I think definitely a through line. If there was any theme to the special, it was the feeling of home. And I definitely felt that watching these movies, just because of what it connects me directly to so many important moments in my life. And where I needed just extra support, or I needed to feel like I belonged to something, these movies and this story did that for me. So I'm thankful they took the time to commemorate and celebrate the achievement that is the Harry Potter film saga, so to speak. So I'm so glad they did it, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because, as you mentioned, there were just some things I just didn't know. Like I didn't know. We'll get into some of that in a minute, but
yeah,
I've actually read like a couple of reviews, and there are a couple of people who are just like, we didn't learn anything we didn't already know. So apparently there are definitely people who feel like they just pieced together all the bits that have been floating around for forever and put it in one neat like package. I'm thrilled with it because I didn't know most of this stuff, but for someone who's really been tracking the insider details of what's going on with these people or these films, they kind of felt like it was a waste of almost 2 hours because they knew everything that happened. Yeah. And like one of the main ones is like the director, I think it was the director of Goblet, or maybe it was the director of Prisoner. Alfonso Cuarón was the director of Prisoner of Azkaban, and Mike Newell was director of Goblet of Fire. One of them gave them homework to like write about, you know, what they think their character means or something like that, like in the voice of their character.
Yeah.
And Emma Thompson wrote like a 12-page paper because that's what Hermione would do. Daniel Radcliffe wrote like a 1-pager because that's what Harry would do. And Rupert didn't write anything at all because that was wrong. Like that's a story I knew already, right? I wasn't angry to see it kind of retold
I didn't know that
way. Oh, you didn't know that?
So I didn't know that story. So when I saw that, I just thought it was so funny that Ron didn't write anything.
Yeah.
That Rupert Grint didn't write anything. He was like, because Ron wouldn't.
But also he didn't want to, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to. It's very clear he didn't want to, but he's just also like, well, Ron wouldn't, so why not?
Right. Quite like I love this one line by Rupert Grint when they were talking about during the Snatcher scene in Hallows 1 and Hallows 1. And they were running, and Emma and Daniel was like, "Oh, we were racing," and Rupert was like, "That's a stunt. I'm not running."
He said, "Running is a stunt. Walking is a stunt."
Yes, I was like, absolutely, Rupert. You gotta let him know.
I loved it. I was like, I'm with you. That's great.
I'm not running. Why would I do that?
I can understand why some people would feel like that. I think especially if, because when they put the movies on HBO Max, I started looking at some of the extras and like behind the scenes stuff. So you do get some of that information, the behind the scenes stuff, but I also didn't watch all of them. So some of the information, yes, was familiar or like felt like I had heard it somewhere along the lines. But some of the information was new to me. And I would definitely not, even if I knew all the stuff, I definitely wouldn't call it a waste, because to be honest, like watching the actors just interact with each other and share the times to me was worth it. Because it's one thing to kind of like hear these stories or whatever, or maybe even if you saw some of the clips or something like that, but like to really feel like you're sitting in the room with them, like, could you imagine? Because like, how many times did you probably think about like, damn, if I was just like there, like while they were talking about this, or like if I was on set or whatever, or something like that. So it's like just to hear them like sharing these memories and their inner feelings of like, oh, when I met this person and when we worked together and I admired that person and this is how I felt doing this, and you know, to me that was worth it. It was worth it.
I think off that, let's just like get right into like relationship dynamics that shocked you. And then I know that's we're going out of order for our outline. We'll go back to it later. But we should just go right into that. Like, because as soon as you said that, like the one that probably stood out to me the most of like, oh, I did not expect that to be a thing, was Daniel and Helen
HBC.
Yeah, and
Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah. And he was just like, if I was 10 years older, I was like, Daniel, Harry, Bella.
I love it. I thought that was so funny.
That was great. That was great.
Helena, oh man, like I could watch her all day.
Oh yeah, me too.
I could watch her all day because
Me
she's
too.
so funny
She's
and
great.
she's just so random and it feels like she's always on.
Yeah.
She's like, I took a picture of this, read it.
She's just, and then she told Draco she stole stuff. She's like, oh, I stole stuff. I loved how freaking Jason Isaacs, the one who plays Lucius Malfoy, was just like, I think it was him. He was just like, you cannot command a scene if she's just gonna do whatever she wants, and you can't predict it. And
you gotta go along with it.
Yeah, you just gotta go along with it. Yeah.
Because you know it's gonna be magic at the end. It's just gonna work. And it reminds me of a podcast that we've both listened to previously where they mentioned that while they were recording, I believe it was Order of Phoenix, while they were filming Order of Phoenix, they had mentioned that like Helena was a little bit more like sexual with like Voldy and like in the way she was acting, and it was just like a little bit more animalistic and raw, and they had to tell her to tone it back.
Yeah.
And, like just watching her in this special, I was like, damn, I wish they had that footage. Like release footage. Release the footage. I need to see like how she was acting on Baltimore.
And I want to see Ralph Fiennes react to that.
Yes.
I want to see him be like,
I would love to see that. I think it was probably the most hysterical thing, but she was definitely like a highlight for me for sure throughout the whole special. I was just like, oh, she's great.
Yeah, she's good. Good TV.
Great. One that was surprising for me that apparently you knew, maybe the rest of the world knew, but I did not know, was Emma Thompson and Tom Felton, and how
I knew that.
Very much in love with him, and I had no idea, and I was like, this is wild but also very cute.
I didn't know the specifics, like the details of their dynamic. I knew that there was some sort of, I knew she crushed on him when they were making the movies, but I didn't know anything beyond that. Like except knowing that he didn't return the crush. I knew that. But that didn't mean, like, I thought maybe when they became adults, like it switched possibly. I don't know, like maybe he was into her. I don't know. But yeah, you can explain like what that dynamic actually is according to them.
Well, yeah, according to them. So Emma describes that she basically like fell in love with him while they had like an assignment or something, and they're like, draw what you think God looks like. And so he drew a girl with a backwards cap on a skateboard, and she was like, I was in love. And I believe Felton is about 3 years older than her. So he was like, man, I just saw her as like my little sister. Like I wasn't, but he was like how he became very protective of her, and like they developed this wonderful friendship, which is great. I mean, also it's kind of awesome to be like, oh, you weren't like a scumbag, or you know what I mean, or like you didn't break her heart, or you didn't play with her or nothing like that. Like, are you really a good guy, Felton? But I just thought that was really, really sweet, and they seem to still have like that loving kind of relationship towards each other to this day. And they claim nothing has ever happened and it's never gone anywhere. Do I believe it? But sure, if they say so.
I think at least as adults they've approached the topic and maybe decided against it.
I feel like they've revisited it.
They have to revisit. Like, are we sure we don't want to? No. Oh, all right, we won't. Okay.
If you say so.
Speaking of relationships, one of the things that probably shouldn't have been a surprise to me but just was, I guess when I'm their age, I'm not considering that as well, was like Daniel Radcliffe mentioning that on the set when they were filming Goblet of Fire, that was like peak hormones for him and like the cast, and how everybody was dating everybody. I want to know who dated and who their feelings hurt. I want to know.
I was waiting for the reveal. I thought Matthew Lewis, who plays Neville, was gonna like spill the tea, because he was like, yeah, everybody was like breaking up and getting together, just pretty much like you would in regular school, except it was in Defense of the Dark Arts.
But I want to know, like,
I want to know who was Parvati dating.
Right. I remember you and I going through that in junior high school and high school, and it being like a wild. I don't even want to think about it. Right, wild ride. So maybe, you know what? I forgive them, because I don't even want to talk about what we went through. So. I couldn't understand why.
Nobody wants to go back there. True story. But
That's
it was, yeah, it was, and it's funny because that is the most like hormonal teenagey type of movie that they've done. So it's kind of funny that it happened at the same time. Like it was capturing that aura that was going on. So I thought that was actually really, really, really great. Any other pairings that were really great for you?
I liked seeing Gary Oldman. He's great. So seeing him with Dan was great. And it was also kind of cool to see the directors talk to Dan about their experience, like going through doing the movies. I think probably the weirdest, not weirdest, but the one that kind of left, I didn't know how I felt about it, was towards the end when it was just Hermione and Ron. It was just Emma and Rupert.
Yeah.
And they're like talking. So just the trio in general, when the three of them were together, I felt very much that Emma was like legitimately wearing her heart on her sleeve and being genuine about all the things she felt. There was something about the way that the guys reacted that made me think like they didn't feel the same way, or at least they never thought about it in the ways that she was saying. Like she would say things like, "Oh, I just knew we all had each other's back," and like I just felt like Rupert and Dan was not reacting like, "Yeah, we totally did." They was just like, eh. And I don't know if they were trying to be reserved or whatever, but some of the things she was saying that happened that was her experience with the three of them, I was just looking for Rupert and Dan to validate that a little bit more by emoting a little bit more.
Yeah. So I get what you mean. And part of me was trying to decipher, is this just their personalities? Or like you said, are they just trying to be more reserved? Maybe it's like a cultural English kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Like, oh, we're not gonna get too emotional on this, like chill out. But
Rupert almost cried at one point.
He almost cried towards the end, yeah.
When
but like
just with
even
her,
when he was, like, to be honest with you, like he had like still the straightest face on.
He did.
Like
he did. Almost as if he was in shock that he was there.
Yeah, maybe, right?
Yeah, like
but yeah, I don't know. I get what you mean. There was kind of that odd, like, where it was almost like she was still there the first day. Yeah. Still so excited, still in that phase. And the other two were just, I don't know. Kind of just like, yeah, it was great. It's cool.
So yeah, she did all that. And then when they showed Rupert telling her that he loved her as a friend, she kind of was just like,
she didn't say nothing back. I was like, bro, she was just like, oh, Roops. I was like,
I mean, she cried, but like,
she did, but it was just kind of weird that she didn't
say it
back. I'm trying to think back and remember if she said it to Tom Felton, or did they say it to each other when they did their duo?
They weren't together on screen.
No,
they interviewed them separately about the same thing, and they just like switched off. They weren't on screen at the same time. So she said, like, I love that man.
Yeah,
she had no problem saying it. She was like, I'm gonna stick beside him. That's me. I'm gonna stick beside him. Ain't that romantic, but that's mine. That's basically the energy she was giving off. And then Rupert was like, I love you. She was like,
Tears. Is this enough? Tears? Scene? Did you guys get the shot? You got the shot? Cool.
Okay. I mean, but since speaking of getting the shot and we're talking about them, I had no idea that like their kiss in the last movie would have been such a big deal for them.
I mean, I get it though.
I get it, but it's just not something that ever occurred to me. It's just like,
yeah, it's not something that I thought about that would have been like that awkward between them. to the point where they kept giggling about it basically, and like whatever. Like I can understand it being awkward and feeling weird, but I just didn't think that they would like be that giggly and whatever about it that they had to keep like reshooting it so many times.
It makes me think that there might have been something else going on behind the scenes that would make it like that much more awkward. Because here's the thing, didn't Emma kiss Daniel Radcliffe in the same movie?
She sure did.
In the movie before, rather, and Deathly Hallows Part 1, when it's the locket scene where they're killing the locket with the sword of Gryffindor, and the locket like shows Ronald Weasley like his deepest, most darkest like fears.
Yeah.
That's Harry hooking up with Hermione. They're like eating each other's face. And I don't think that was CGI. It's not mentioned at all. So I'm just like, you kiss both of them. Why is kissing him such a big deal? And it makes me think that like
something was off.
There may have been like, it might have been awkward because one of them was dating somebody else, maybe.
So possibly. Yeah, there's definitely something behind that. And I mean, even in watching the trio, like I said earlier, like when you see these people reunite, you kind of wonder, like, are they actually really friends, or are they actually really cool and stuff like that? And like, I think I kind of had that underlying thought throughout all of this of like, are they really friends? Do they really like each other that much?
I want to know if Dan or Emma has even met Rupert's child. Like if they haven't, y'all ain't friends.
I don't think so. To be honest with you, I don't think so.
I don't think they're, I think there's love for each other, but I don't think that they are. I would be shocked if they were like wishing each other a happy birthday or like sending each other a Merry Christmas text. Like that would actually shock me.
Would it? I think they're on that level, but I don't think it's on a level of like, oh, you just had a baby, I want to meet your baby. Like, I don't think.
But I feel like if there's a group chat, you would like.
Is there a group chat?
That's my point. Is there? I don't think there's a group chat.
There's definitely no group chat.
There's no group chat.
Except maybe leading up to this, to where it was just like, oh, what are you wearing? What's happening?
Yeah.
What time are you?
Yeah. How you feeling? You good? Like, is anybody else bringing their wife? Because mine wants to like watch on set. Like, are we good with that? Like, probably more logistic stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't get the vibe that they have a group chat.
No, not at all. I will say that a pairing that I was surprised didn't happen was Tom Felton and Daniel Radcliffe.
That would have been dope.
I felt like those two characters were such outside of Harry and Voldemort, like that was your main nemesis. Yeah, antagonist throughout the books and the films, and to not put them together, or it didn't even feel like they asked them really questions about like the relationship between Malfoy and Harry. And that struck me as really, really odd. I was surprised, and I was just like, ooh, are they just not friends? Like, do they not want to talk about each other? Like, are they just not?
I probably wouldn't go that far. I just honestly, like, you only saw Daniel with the other two for that shot, and then all the directors and like the bigger names like Helen and Gary, right? You didn't see him with any of the other like characters who were students in the movies. Right. So I don't know if that was a filming thing and the way they shot it. I don't know if like availability, I'm sure everybody's doing something maybe. I don't know. But like, yeah it would have been
nice. How much of it is scheduling? How much of it is like other stuff? But also it's like, y'all didn't ask Tom Felton about like him versus Harry at all. And that's a major part of his whole storyline. Like that is his storyline.
Maybe he felt like he's talked about it enough, because Tom is the one that's been the most visible over the years.
Absolutely.
When it comes to him embracing his time with the Harry Potter saga. Yeah. So I'm sure he's talked about how he feels about being Malfoy and all of those things. But I agree, just having them two having Ralph Fiennes and Dan together on screen would have been great too. Have Voldy and Harry together.
That would have been nice.
And have him, and like watching Ralph Fiennes just slip into the Voldemort accent was just like, whoa.
That was so great.
Whoa.
He was like, it's kind of like a whisper. And then I was like,
and then he did the arm
yes.
thing, the wand thing. He's like, it's coming out of you. My arm hurt, and I was like, okay,
good, so good.
Seeing them together would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been a nice pair up for sure. But it is what it is. The Weasleys coming together.
That was good.
That was special.
That was so special. It was special
because they really are like the heart of like the films and the story, and it's just like every time you're thinking about coming home, it's the Weasleys, it's them, it's that unit, and that love and everything like that. And watching like the behind the scenes footage between Mr. and Mrs. Weasley was so cute.
Yeah.
I was just like, dang, these actors were really on it. And it made me think of at some point in the special, all the younger actors are talking about like, when we stepped on set, we did not realize like the acting royalty that we were with. And looking back on the films, I didn't realize it either, right? Like I'm just watching the films, I'm just like, oh, they just have adults playing whoever. And it wasn't until I got older and like realized like these actors have been in other things and that they actually are considered like British acting royalty, that I was just like, oh, wow, okay. This is who y'all have playing,
Maggie Smith is like Professor McGonagall through all the movies. And it's just like, when I got older and I was like, wait, Maggie Smith has been in what? That right. I was just like, oh, okay. And I've mentioned to you a lot of times, like when I realized Gary Oldman was serious, I didn't realize that until 2020.
Right.
To be honest with you, I was like, wait, Commissioner Gordon is Sirius Black? What?
It's the same guy. And even when he shows up like on set, I'm just like, I don't know who this man is. I don't who are you? Like he's basically like early Lady Gaga, where it's just like, what's your face? Who are you really? And so I love that they paired these fresh-faced kids with like these acting geniuses. It's magic.
It's definitely magic.
Yeah.
Is there anyone, like any actor / character you wish that wasn't in the reunion that you wish was there?
I think Remus Lupin, David Thewlis,
maybe?
Thewlis. I don't know. Okay, yes, let's go with Thewlis. David Thewlis, who plays Remus Lupin. I think having him on there would have been great because he was such a great character. And I just love how he brought that character to life. Michael Gambon was not there, but
I wasn't mad.
I was not mad about that at all. I was fine with that. Maggie Smith should have been all up and down in there. I wish she was in there. Honestly, I think that was it for me, really. And Molly Weasley, Julie Walters.
I think I would have liked to see Harry Melling, who played Dudley Dursley.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would like to hear like what that experience was like playing that character for so long. Because he essentially like bullied the main character. Like I wonder what that was like. I honestly, him and the actress who plays Petunia, Fiona Shaw, I think I would have liked to see a representation of the Dursleys, because every single book starts with the Dursleys, right? You start and you end with them. And I think it would have been fitting if in some way we did the same thing with the reunion special.
I was fine without it.
That's fair.
I did not care to see them at all.
I also would have liked to see Dolores Umbridge and Imelda Staunton. And really, because like Quiet as It's Kept, she's the true villain. She's like a real villain. Dolores Umbridge. That
is a villain through and through, and I love it. It would have been fun. Yeah, it would have been fun to have her there. I think they were, I'm trying to think like maybe what they were going for, and maybe it was just they wanted people who were more reoccurring, or even if they weren't that reoccurring, they're just a bigger name.
Oh
And
yeah, that's probably true. But if that's the case, why wasn't Robert Pattinson there? I fully expected to see him. I fully expected
did
to see
you?
him. I did. I did.
Here's
And
my thing.
I think it's because I wanted to see him, honestly.
It's because you wanted to.
Whatever. Professor Quirrell was in it.
For like 2 seconds at the
Whatever,
end.
he was in it.
I feel like they definitely cut out all his stuff and they were like, but damn, we have this footage. Let's just throw him in there. Here's my theory of Robert Pattinson. First of all, I've never heard him speak about Potter. I don't think he really cares for it. I don't think he cared for playing that role and doesn't care to speak on it.
There's a story that just really quick. There's a story that was float. Remember when Tumblr was big?
Yeah.
There was a story that floated on Tumblr where we all know how Robert Pattinson felt about him playing Edward in Twilight. He hated that, and he would tell everybody that he thought it was stupid. He was going somewhere, and there was a bunch of fans like calling him Edward, like asking for an autograph. And there was a fan who called him Cedric, and he turned around and gave that person an autograph and ignored everybody else. So I mean, I don't know how true that story is. I just liked the idea of the story.
Yeah, the idea of it. But also, he is like, I'm assuming that the time they were filming this, he was probably in the middle of filming the Batman. So it probably would have been hard to like get him out there. So, and then also he was in, I mean, just because he's a big name, I get that, but he was only in one movie, honestly. So,
that was his first time. That was his first time in a film.
Yeah. So I didn't think they were, because it was like, okay, we're gonna get you here to talk about Cedric, and then what, you know? So I think
showed up. The dude who played Dobby showed up for like 5 lines. It's like, I don't want to see you. I want to see actual Dobby.
They should have animated Dobby next to him. It was like, we don't have the budget for that.
Right,
you're
just gonna
have to show. And he didn't even do the voice, so it was just like,
he didn't.
You should have done the voice. Maybe you would have gotten more screen time. But I think Emma Thompson, Sybil Trelawney, that would have been good. Could have been more in there. Yeah. It would have been nice to hear her talk about playing Trelawney, how she came up with the voice and does all the mannerisms behind it. I would have loved to see that. Yeah. So yeah, that was missing for me. Cho Chang could stay where she's at. It's cool. Nothing against her. It's just, I don't know. I don't think I really care to hear much of what she would have to say.
You don't want her to say, oh, well, I set a goal. There was someone else that was kind of notably missing from the filming. And that was JK herself.
Talk about it.
There were 2 or 3 clips of JK talking about different things, like the first time, like trying to find the actor who was going to play Harry, finding Harry, walking on set, and then there was another clip of her talking about something else. But all of those clips came from an interview she did back in 2019 with a different production company for a different event, different thing. So there were no original clips of her for this particular special.
Right. Do you want to inform? Yeah. Let's inform our viewers and our listeners why she is notably missing.
So J.K. Rowling is obviously the author of this great story. She helped assistant producer, something like that, all the films. And in recent years, in the last 4 years at this point, all the years are blending in together. She's come under a lot of fire for her stance on transgender issues. I'm not going to reiterate what her stance actually is, because to be quite honest, I don't want to paraphrase and mess it up. But a lot of people have a problem with this stance that she takes on this particular human rights issue. And it's because of that, there's been so much controversy about whether people should even still be supporting the Harry Potter story in many different ways and or what have you. So she's not in this. Like, do you think that was deliberate? Do you think it was deliberate on her part or the production company's part? What do you think would have happened if she was in it? And do you think she could have added anything that we didn't get? I asked you a lot of questions.
You did, but I'm going to try to hit them all.
Okay.
I think it was very deliberate on the part of production, but also a lot of the cast members have come out and vocalized their disapproval of her viewpoints. And so even if they had gotten her on camera, I don't think no one would have filmed with her. Let me not say no one, but I think a lot of our actors would not have filmed with her. And so I think it was deliberate on the part of production to avoid that type of conflict, but also B, we know she created this story. So we're not going to pretend that she's not part of this, but at the same time, we don't want to show that like we 100% support her. So let's use old footage and interject that. I don't think she could have added more, honestly. I mean, she could have, but I don't think in a way that would have so differently enriched the special. Especially just when I'm thinking about the questions that they were asking different people and stuff. It doesn't feel like she would have really added much more in than the footage that they already had and brought in. You know what I mean? So I think the footage that they already had did the job and did what it needed to do. And so I think that was fine. I did not miss her being there. I did not miss her being there. Yeah, so I think they made the right call. I will say that. I think they made the right call.
I think they also made a deliberate decision to not have her be a part of it. I wonder what that conversation must have been like. I'm curious. I would assume someone up top made a call to her and was like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. We don't want you to be a part of it. Like, just let FYI, like we own the IP for these movies, so we can do what we want with them. Basically, we're just giving you the FYI that it's happening. Like, I wonder how that went down. I agree that with so many of the stars of the movies vocalizing their disagreement with JK, that it would have taken away from what this was supposed to be, because as a viewer watching it, I would be like, how is Emma having a conversation with her? How is Dan, who wrote an open, I think one of them or both of them wrote an open letter to her for the public to see, that was just like, stop what you're doing. You're hurting people. So I agree that would have been so distracting for the viewer to be like, how can you sit here and talk to them when you guys have this very opposing stance on something that's really important. I agree. I don't know that she would have, I didn't miss her. Unfortunately, I did not miss her. There's one aspect that I felt like she really could have given some insight to, but in the span of this special, probably not to the level of justice that I would want it. And I would just really enjoy hearing her talk about the process of putting what was in her brain onto the screen, like how she got the visual. Like, there was one clip that was like, that's exactly how I saw it. It's like, what was that like?
Right.
Like, or translating.
I was gonna say, just even talking about maybe some of the stuff that she didn't quite.
Right.
I mean, I don't think they would have done that because that's not the tone that they were going for, but it would be fun if she's just like, that's not how I pictured that or really wanted that, but hey, it still worked out.
Or give me some things that you feel like the producers and the directors did better than you had envisioned, right? Like, I know we've talked about this, that like one thing from the movies that was absolutely better than anything I could have pictured in my mind was the tale of the three brothers, how they depicted that in the
that was beautiful.
In the first Hallows movie. That is absolutely something that the director and producers and the writers like enhance, what I could have pictured reading the book. So I think it would have been really interesting for JK to suggest like that would have fit in this film.
That would have been a good addition to these things for sure. But I mean, again, with or without her, the train chugged on.
I mean, the train is it's going back to London, whether you want it or not. Ask Harry, right?
Right.
So, yeah. Any other like things that shocked you or things you wanna mention?
One thing I did want to mention was when the director was talking about David Yates was talking about Hallows Part 2 and how he wanted to change the ending from the book. Because I know that's kind of been like a point of contention for a lot of people. Because in the books, the final battle happens in Hogwarts, in the Great Hall, I believe, and like everybody's watching. And Harry pretty much gives Voldemort like one last spoiler alert, gives him like one last chance, like, right, like do right, like change your life around, you know.
Not only that, but he gives the whole download to the everybody watching.
Right.
Spoiler alert: Snape loved my mother, and Dumbledore planned to have his death like staged, and the Elder Wand was supposed to be Snape. So he gives the whole download in front of like 100 people.
Yeah, and it's like you're not as smart as you thought you were, kind of thing, right? And then defeats Voldemort. But in the movies, they have this like personal moment where they like collide and they fall off the building and they're like morphing into each other and whatever. And then they end up back on Hogwarts grounds, and then, you know, Harry defeats him. So it was interesting hearing the director being like, man, I'm the one who's got to end this, and I've got to do this. And that he so totally went off book, you know, it was just like, I gotta end this, I gotta do this, I gotta land the ship, right? It was just like, screw the last, you know, 50 pages of that book. This is what we're gonna do. You know, that to me is like such a wild choice. It's such a wild thought. And like when he's explaining it, he's like, you know, they started this story together. I wanted them to end it together and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I get it. And I'm not mad at the ending. Because once again, I went through all the films before I even read the books. So for me, I think cinematically and it made sense for me. It was still kind of like weird, but it made sense for me and I was okay with it and I was fine with it. I think after reading the book, I was like, I would have preferred this. I think I would have preferred the book ending to it, but that part really got to me because I always do think about like, what do these people think about when they make these choices? Because there's so much in these books and you have to at some point go, we can't do this. This is going to look weird. This makes sense. We've already been doing this in the story, so we should go this way. Like it's cool to see somebody talk about that process.
I agree. And now as you were talking, I was like, I want every single director to explain themselves now.
Their choices.
Like, why'd you do this?
Yeah.
Explain to me, because you didn't have to do that. Why? What's his name? Oh, one thing I will mention about the directors. The director of Goblet of Fire, Mike Newell, who told the story about how he showed the twins how to fight, which is wild because they're brothers, they fight. Like, why would you need to get on the ground with them? You're in your 60s. So his ribs got cracked.
Yeah.
When I heard that story, I was just like, oh, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Makes sense now. Because look who the director is. Like, that made so much sense to me. But now I want an apology. Like, no.
Because if you watch the like behind the scenes footage of him directing, he is a very like boisterous, loud, like just energetic kind of man. And you're right, it does make, and even when you just like watch the interviews with all of the directors and you see all the behind the scenes with the directors, you're just like, I understand exactly why we got the exact movie that we got.
Yep.
And so, yeah, Harry, why'd you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? That is all him. That
like,
all-
I can see Mike being like, yeah, next time grab him. Like, just yoke him up and be like, did you do this?
Get in there. I want to see you angry. I want you to be upset that this boy would like put his life in danger or something. Right.
After all the things you did for him, you need to be upset. Like, what? How dare he put his life on the line for glory? Like, why would he do that? Does he not know how much you sacrificed to make sure this little boy was alive? And if anybody around would be like, no, because that's not how the freaking story goes. Actually.
Right. Nobody stepped in, which also kind of makes a lot of sense because, again, he's a huge personality and also a very huge man. So I could kind of understand like why no one in the moment would be like, excuse me, Mike.
I'm just gonna
just a note. Just a note.
Quietly. As if Dumbledore knew the answer was already going to be no, but just had to perform for everybody else in the room and do his due diligence and ask. Dumbledore knew Harry didn't do that. I'm sorry, we're getting on tangent, but like as a director, I think, and the general masses usually agree, like there is literal direction in the book. You didn't have to change it.
Yeah. But sometimes they feel like in their mind, like, oh, this is just gonna go over better.
No,
and
don't.
yeah. I think a lot of times people underestimate like the feelings of the fans. They really do. And again, that was another scene that as a movie watcher, I was just kind of like, okay. And then when I went and read the books and I was like, Dumbledore is not this person. But because you can take liberties with, film and adaptations, you can kind of steer Dumbledore in a direction where it's like, oh, this wouldn't be too out of his zone. But when you read the books, you're like, oh, this is not the man, not the quiet, confident man that we know, So it's very interesting to kind of watch those things.
I didn't direct it, but if I did,
yes, let them know.
I would have told Gambon to say that quietly.
Yeah,
absolutely. With a calm like resolve of just like, did you do this, Harry? I believe you.
With that being said, I mean, I think the directors of each film really, in order to push the films forward and make them what they are, I think they all did what needed to be done in the moment.
I agree.
Christopher Columbus came in with like the playful, magical, whimsical worlds, leading us into these worlds with the first two films. And then Alfonso Cuarón doing Prisoner of Azkaban, which needed to be a bit darker and even like have some aspects of horror, right? Was able to bring that in, which is great. Mike Newell, this big, energetic man, like, Goblet of Fire, we want to base it around the Triwizard Tournament. So bringing in that energy and that fire, that was great. And then we have David Yates for, Order, Half-Blood, and Deathly Hallows, both parts. Is they did what needed to be done in those moments. And there will always be nitpicks. People will always feel certain ways. But the general overall direction that these movies took, I thought were great.
I would agree. It helped to hear the directors talk about how they perceived what their mission was. So especially for Goblet of Fire, Mike Newell saying, this is a coming of age story, and this is the movie where Harry comes of age. And that moment happens the moment he gets back to the Triwizard Tournament with Cedric's body.
Yeah.
And like that whole scene needing to really land, like we are not in a kid's story anymore.
Yeah.
That helped so much for me to just be like, okay, you messed up the Dumbledore line, but like you really did execute what you set out to execute, and it was necessary. Exactly what you just said. It was necessary for the story. So respect.
You gotta, it's because we could sit back and critique all day, right? But until you're in that position, it's not an easy job.
No.
It's not an easy thing to step into. So honestly, I think they did the thing with this entire franchise and really brought it to life in a beautiful, amazing way that we continue to enjoy till this day and, forever on. I had an emotional moment when Hagrid, who is played by Robbie Coltrane. First of all, like even realizing that he was in a wheelchair, I was just like, oh man, these guys are getting older. I don't know if you realize that.
I didn't
So when Emma goes to hug him for the first time, they did like, I think they were trying to camouflage it like on purpose, but you can like see the wheels in the handle a little bit in the beginning when she goes to greet him. And so when they were in the hall, when they did that scene, that entry scene in the dance hall, he was in the chair. But hearing him kind of say like, you know, people will be watching these movies like 50 years from now. He was like, sadly, I won't be here, but Hagrid will. I was like, oh, my heart. I was like, oh my God. I was like, he sure will.
Yeah, he sure will.
But it was a beautiful sentiment. And like, that is what these stories do for us. Like, they're here forever. They're here for us to like pass on and share and, you know, an experience with other people.
I have one final question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you think that doing this reunion special is kind of like, do you think that the story is ready now or will be soon for a reboot? And if so, I know I kind of already know what your answer is going to be, but let's just say if they do go ahead with a reboot, which one of the original actors can you see playing a role in the reboot?
When you say reboot, do you mean like just a full remake of the original story?
I think a full remake of the original story. I would be shocked if in the next 20 years they haven't at least attempted to reboot. I think 20 years is still too soon, personally. Yeah. Like if anyone who was 11 when this came out is still alive,
yes. Gotta wait 100 I think that's how I feel. I feel like our generation has to be gone right. Before they can talk about rebooting this film. But if they did want to do that, I don't think you can bring in any of the original actors unless they're like of age to like, I mean, if Maggie Smith is still up for it, wants to play McGonagall. So
I was thinking more so like if it was 20, 30 years from now, 20 years from now, can Ivana Lynch, who plays Luna Lovegood, be Professor Trelawney? Could Tom Felton play Lucius? Like, can some of the child actors play some of the older professors or villains in the story?
I feel like that would just take away from it, though.
That's fair.
I feel like at that point, you just have to get fresh faces all around. Because even though we understand that, like, oh, they're grown up and they're playing someone else, we're still going to want to see Luna out of Ivana.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Like, even if it was something where it's like they get Tom Felton to play Lucius at this point, it would just still be like, no, but you were Malfoy. Like you were, you know what I mean? Like I yeah, nah. It's too soon. It should not happen.
Ever.
It should, honestly, I don't think it should happen ever. But I know, knowing the way Hollywood operates, they're going to attack it at some point. I don't know if they're going to try and do it in the movie world.
They might do a TV.
I could see them doing TV. I could see them doing almost like a Lord of the Rings-ish thing that they're trying to do now, where it's like, oh, okay, let's continue telling maybe different stories or something in this world, even if it's like from the same years, but just doing it, you know, differently or whatever. But I can't. If it was a trilogy of sorts, I would probably be like, okay, there's more likely of a chance. But because it's 8 movies,
$7,
I think it's tougher. Because now you have to have people who are willing to sign up
for the whole thing, yeah.
For 8 movies, and not only that, but to take on the like ridicule of I'm gonna be Harry Potter. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's a tough ask. It's a tough ask on anybody.
But there's probably a lot of money in it.
Oh, I mean, yeah. But damn, if you fail, you fail hard. You fail hard. That's why I think they would go into the TV world versus anything. They would go to the TV world, do limited series or something like that, and make things like that happen. I can't see a full reboot of all the films going on.
And
And then they're still doing Fantastic Beasts right now.
They are still doing Fantastic Beasts, but there's still a lot of canon to dive into. I can see a 10 episode season on the Marauders. I can see a 10 episode season on I don't know, like Dumbledore and Doge like getting into stuff when they were kids, or a 10
I would love to see the Founders.
Yeah, a 10 episode
story?
season
Founders
on the
of Hogwarts?
Founders. Yeah, just like all these different groups.
Because that's old magic.
That's old. That's super old magic.
Or like, F it, like let's go to any one of the other schools.
Yeah, give me the one in Africa where they don't use wands. That's the one I want. I want that one.
Exactly. Like I would love to see that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Let Dean Thomas take a trip. Back to let's make him African. I don't know if he is. Like,
no, we don't know who his daddy is. So we keep like, oh, I heard your daddy was over teaching at this other school. I'm there.
Right. Like, let's do it. Like, let's go visit. Let's see what
Alfred
they're doing.
Enoch as a dad to go look for his dad and bring his kids along and make it be a family affair. Like that would be dope.
I'm here for it. Like, yeah, just exploring the different cultures, the different ways they use magic and all that kind of that would be great. That'd be awesome. Let's get out of England.
Yeah.
Let's get out of New York. Let's get out of the US for a while and let's see what that's like. So I think those would be fun. Those would be great to see. A full reboot, definitely not.
No.
That was a great question.
With that, so obviously Nessa and I the reunion brought up a lot of warm feelings for us, and would highly recommend anyone who feels very strongly about the Harry Potter series to take a stab at watching the reunion special and let us know what you think. Any final words at all?
That's it. We can't wait to talk to you guys more about this story and stories like it. Make sure you follow us on our socials at Casual Fangirls _. Check out our YouTube, and just follow us. Give us any recommendations of things that you guys are watching, or things that you would like to hear us talk about. That would be fun. That would be great. There's a lot of content out. Just know what you guys are interested in.
Yep. And with that, we'll talk to you soon. Stay tuned, as Nessa said, for all the stuff coming up, but specifically, Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore is coming out April 15th, 2022. Ooh. I haven't bought my ticket yet, but I'm going to figure it out and we're going to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. So hopefully leading up to that, Nessa and I are going to dive into the other two movies of the Fantastic Beasts franchise to talk about that leading up to refresh our memories leading up to the movie coming out. So that is the next installment potentially of the Harry Potter things that we're doing. Mm-hmm. When we talk about that, maybe we'll talk about our trip to the Harry Potter store in New York that we did back in October. That was great. Bought our first wands and everything, so that would be cool. Stay tuned. So with that, I have been T.
And I'm Nessa.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls.